Okay guys, we're going to go ahead and look at our homework. So starting on this side, your assignment was to do the odds, so I'm going to go through the evens to be able to give some examples to help you out. Remember that we had two new rules that we learned today. That when we have a base to the 0 power, it doesn't matter what the base is, that is going to equal 1. Also, if we have something to a negative exponent, that turns into a fraction. We end up 1 over, and then it moves to the denominator, and then the exponent becomes positive. So that would become 1 over x to the 3rd power. So let's go ahead and look through the evens on this side. Negative 7 to the 0 power, even though that's a negative 7 in there, doesn't matter. It equals 1. 6 times 6 to the 0 power. So you could go 6 times, to the 0 power, that's 1. That equals 6. Or you could say, you know what, this is a 1 exponent. So 6 to the 1 plus 0 equals 6 to the 1st. That equals 6. Either direction gets you to the same answer. Number 6. So let's look at our coefficients first. We're going to multiply those because remember, if we expand it out, we have 4 times v to the 0 times 8 times v to the 4th. 4 times 8, that's going to give us 32. And then we can add our exponents. That gives us v to the 0 plus 4 is 4. Looking at number 8, 30 divided by x to the 0. So let's go ahead and look at this. Well, if I deal with my exponent first, I end up with 30 over 5 times x to the 0 is 1. Okay, so that ends up being 30 divided by 5, and that's going to simplify to be 6. Number 10, 6 to the negative 1st power. That's going to let me know it's a negative exponent, so it's going to turn into a fraction. 1 over 6, and that 1 becomes positive. But remember, I don't have to write that 1, that I end up with 1/6 is our answer on number 10. Okay, looking at the reverse side, your assignment was odd, so I'm going to look at evens. So when I look at number 2, that's going to tell me it needs to be a fraction, so it's going to be 5 over 5 to the 7th power. So 1 over 5 to the 7th power. Looking at number 4, that's a negative exponent, so it turns into a fraction, s to the 6th power. Number 6, it's going to turn into a fraction. I'm going to keep my parentheses, and the exponent changes to positive. So it's negative 2 to the 6th power. Number 8, negative exponent. It's going to move it to the denominator. So we end up with 1 over y to the 12th. Then looking here in the next part, this time our directions say to evaluate. So number 10, 1 over 3 to the 2nd power. Okay, I'm going to evaluate, so I'm going to go ahead and solve that. That'll be 1 over 3 to the 2nd power is 9. Okay, looking at number 12. So that negative exponent is going to tell me to turn it into a fraction. So I end up with 1 over, I'll keep my parentheses, negative 9 to the 4th power, and then I've got to evaluate. So when I look at 9 to the 4th power, that's going to end up being 1 over 6,561. That ends up being a positive answer, okay? Because it's negative 9 times, it's negative 9 times negative 9 times negative 9 times negative 9. And that gives us a positive answer. Next one, it says write each fraction as an expression using a negative exponent. So this time we're kind of going backwards. from what we usually expect. We're usually told to get rid of the negative. This time we're told to change it into a negative. So I'm going to do the evens. Number 14. Right now I don't have an exponent, so I need to do that first, get one. So I know that 81 is, the square root of 81 is 9, so that would be the same thing as 1 over 9 squared. Now if I want to turn it into a negative exponent, that's going to equal 9 to the negative 2. Number 16, just moving it up top, and the exponent changes to a negative. On the last section, simplify using positive exponents. That's what we usually want. So we want to find the positive exponents. But we're going to be combining some rules. So with 18, so first rule, I'm going to add the exponents. So that's going to give me s to the negative 5 plus 7. That's going to end up being s to the second power. And actually, that has us done right there. Okay, looking at number 20, that is, on number 20, 10 to the 8th over 10 to the 9th. So, with my quotient rule, that's going to be 10 to the 8 minus 9. That gives me 10 to the negative 1. Don't want a negative exponent, so it's going to turn it into a fraction. So it's going to be 1 over 10 to the first power, but I don't have to write that 1 as the exponent. Okay, now looking at number 22. Okay, number 22 is actually the same as looking at number 18. So we have s to the negative 5 plus 7, and that equals s squared. Then number 24. Okay, so looking at our division rule first. So if I take 6 to the negative 4 minus 8, that's going to be 6 to the negative 12. Then I'm going to turn it into a fraction. 1 over 6 to the 12th power. And then looking at our last couple of them, number 26. We have negative exponents that are going on here. So there's a couple of ways I can go about it. I can say, you know what, I have e to the negative 3 minus 2. That is going to end up giving me e to the negative 5, and then that's going to change into a fraction it's going to change into a fraction e. Let me erase that. Okay, so that gives me 1 over e to the, well, it doesn't want to write now, 5th power. Okay, I'm going to erase that so I can rewrite it neatly. Okay, 1 over e to the 5th power. Okay, going on to number 28, j to the negative 2 over negative 2. So when we do this, we end up with j to the negative 2 minus negative 2. Those negatives, it's going to minus a negative equals plus a positive. So when we do that, negative 2 plus 2 is going to zero out. So we end up with j to the 0 power, which equals 1. And guys, now that I look back at number 26, let's go back and let's look at number 26. Because what I did is I did it minus a negative. On number 26, e to the negative 3rd power, and then you minus negative 2. So minus a negative is a plus a positive. So that's going to end up with e to the negative 1. And so when that turns into a fraction, it's going to be 1 over e to the 1st power. And so that would be your answer for number 26.